wonderful parents and caregivers. Welcome back to our channel where we explore effective parenting strategies to nurture and guide our children. Today we're diving into a topic that has sparked so much debate. Why timeouts don't work and what to do instead. You know what I mean by timeouts, right? Being in the naughty corner. So let's see how it goes. Everyone dive in with me. Timeouts have been a staple in many households, including mine, intended to give children a moment to reflect on their behavior. However, research and experience suggest that this method might not be as effective as we once thought. Do you want to know why? Let's explore why. You know, when a lot of us young parents, we actually had the mindset of sending the kids to the naughty corner, or as if a real African Nigerian mom, you bring out Dr. Do-Good, you know. But research has actually made us understand nowadays that that method might not actually be as effective as we really thought that it was supposed to be. So let's look at some of the limitations of timeouts. Let's consider the emotional impacts it has on the children. Isolating a child during a moment of behavior can actually lead to feelings of rejection and confusion. Instead of understanding their mistake, they might actually feel unloved or abandoned. Sometimes children do the wrong things to get our attention, and then sending them away or isolating them because of their wrong behavior would actually make them feel like, oh, my mommy doesn't like me, or my mommy hates me, or everybody thinks I'm bad, or everybody thinks I'm not a good child. It actually begins to, seep into their heads like that. And this emotional disconnect can actually strain parent-child relationship, making it harder for the child to seek guidance in the future, because that child might actually be afraid of, if I say this or if I do this wrong thing, I might just get sent over to the naughty corner. Secondly, timeouts often miss the opportunity to teach the appropriate behavior. Now, without immediate guidance, children may not understand what they did wrong or how to correct whatever it is that they've done. So yes, as parents, we will say, oh, go to the naughty corner, or time out, I'm taking your tab, or I'm taking your device. But yet you haven't still corrected that wrong behavior. So yes, you've given the child time out because you want him to understand that what he did was wrong. But that time out doesn't give you the opportunity to correct the wrong. It doesn't give you the opportunity to educate the child, to say, I'm going to punish you because you did this or that, and help the child to understand that I'm not supposed to be doing this, and this is the consequence of my behavior. So addressing the behavior promptly allows for real-time teaching and learning. Now, instead of sending them off to some naughty corner or, isolating them, you know what, you're being silly, go to your room. That time, that is when, like the Bible says, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. Sometimes the children don't actually reflect on what they did wrong. Instead, they concoct more evil thoughts in their minds. So lastly, relying on timeouts can sometimes lead to increased misbehavior. Just like I said, they might act out even more to regain attention or to express an unresolved feeling, perpetuating a cycle of negative behavior. Now, like I said earlier, sometimes children might do the wrong things just to get your attention. But because we lead a very busy life as parents, we have a lot of objectives that we need to also meet up as personally, our own personal goals and objectives. And yes, even though we apportion time to our children, maybe they might actually need more time. Maybe they might have something that is hurting them or bothering them that they want to discuss with you. But because they believe that you're going to translate their they are coming to you as maybe a form of disturbance. So they try to do something to get your attention. That way you would actually stop whatever it is you want to do and give them that attention that they need. Now we're going to look at alternative strategies. What can we do instead? Instead of timeouts, then what next? So now we're going to be looking at alternative strategies. What can we do instead? We're going to explore some positive alternatives that foster understanding and growth. First, I would advise time in. It sounds funny, but yes, instead of sending them away when they do something wrong, bring them closer. Use that time to correct and discuss their feelings. Use that opportunity to know the motive behind their actions and what is going on in their minds, what prompted them to actually do whatever it is that they did, right? And also guide them towards understanding their emotions, being able to identify the emotions, regulate the emotions, and present themselves in a way that we or anybody looking from the outside would not take offense. So let's say a child does something wrong, maybe breaks a plate or maybe breaks something. Instead of yelling and screaming and saying, why did you do that? You know how much that is? Blah, 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 blah. Get out of my sight. Some parents will go that far. Instead, yes, you're angry, but if you remember in the workshop I had last week, I talked about emotional regulation of us as parents. So first of all, we need to use the calm method. I'm going to taking us back to the workshop. So if you haven't, if you weren't privy to listen or to watch that video, I'm going to put the link right up here so that you could go back and watch it and actually watch it and follow through with that program. Now we should learn to use the calm method to regulate our anger and bring the child closer to us, right? So create a safe space. Bring the child closer to you, even though the child has done something undeniably very wrong. Ask open-ended questions. So this thing that you have done now, how do you want us to fix it? How are we going to fix it? I need to know why you did this, right? Listen without judgment. Listen to what the child has to say. As angry as you are, as stupid as whatever it is they have to say, or as senseless to you as what they have to say, because when we're angry, things really don't make sense anymore. And then finally, manage your emotions. So be able to regulate your own emotions and bring the child closer to you. Now, this approach would actually reinforce trust, and it will teach your child emotional regulation. Now, that child will understand that, oh, wow, despite what I did, mommy didn't yell, mommy didn't shout. For parents, I want us to do something. I want us to give a thumbs up if you feel that it's something that you can do. I know that it's not easy. It's going to take a lot of practice to kind of snap back to, okay, you know what? Calm down, calm all the way down. My coach would say, calm all the way down. And use that calm method to follow up with the child instead of time out. So the first one is what? Time in. Now, the second alternative is natural consequences. Allow children to experience the natural outcomes of their actions when safe and appropriate. For example, if a child refuses to wear a coat on a chilly day, feeling cold can actually serve as a lesson. So maybe you're going out and the weather is very cold, for those of us here, and you tell your child, I need you to put on your coat. You're like, oh, yeah, I don't want to. Okay, no problem. But I assure you that when you step out, give that child 5, 10, 15, max 20 minutes, he or she is going to come to you and say, oh, mommy, I'm cold. And then you'd now use that opportunity to lecture the child, to say, but I told you to put on your coat. I told you to wear clothing appropriate for the weather. So now you have to bear the consequences. But we have to do it in a way that is safe and appropriate, like I said before. So we shouldn't say, okay, because of that, you're going to leave the child to go all the way out or maybe out to school in the cold, because definitely there would now be negative consequences of that, is that he most likely will catch a cold and would end up in hospital. But he or she has to understand that these are the natural consequences of their actions. This method actually would help them to understand the direct link between their behavior and its consequences, and it will also prompt responsibility, being able to take responsibility for their actions. That way they know that, okay, if the weather is cold, I have to wear my jacket. If the weather is too sunny, I have to maybe wear a hat or wear sunscreen. So but this method will actually teach them to be responsible for their actions. Then the third alternative is role playing and modeling. Now, this actually would demonstrate the desired behavior between role playing scenarios. So this is an interactive approach that provides children with clear examples of how to handle challenging situations. So you can actually teach the child by observation. So you can say, okay, you know what, you be me, let me be you. And then teach the child how, model the behavior that you want the child to portray. And they learn by observing, as we all know as parents. So modeling positive behavior is indeed very, very powerful in bringing up our children. Now, we could maybe say, okay, because you make me shout a lot, you're going to be me and I'm going to be the child. So you ask me the kind of questions I ask you, and I'm going to answer in the way I want you to respond. And you yourself and your child or children can actually do that role play in exchange. So you can do it with yourself and the child. You can do it with siblings, with each other. But with you being guiding them, what your aim is to help them to see things from your own point of view, because they are on the other end, you are on this end, and everybody has a different point of view of the situation. So sometimes role play actually, interchanges that positioning, so that my child understands the way I feel and the way why I'm reacting the way I'm reacting, and I also understand why they are behaving the way they are behaving. The fourth alternative is to hold regular family meetings. Now, this may sound funny, but when things are kind of going out of hand, instead of you having to be the parent who's always yelling, screaming, punishing, kids looking at you like, oh, my mom, oh, mommy has come again, oh, that kind of parent, you can actually decide to hold regular family meetings to discuss rules, expectations, and feelings. And I'd advise that you write them down and put them in a very conspicuous corner where everybody can see the rules, your expectations, and especially how you feel towards certain things. Now, this platform will foster open communication and mutual respect. Why? Because your child, you're putting your child almost on the same level to say, you know what, let's have a discussion. Let's actually gather together and rub minds. So let me use my children's name. My daughter's name is Love. I could say, okay, Love, tell me what you feel, or tell me why you've been behaving the way you're behaving. And this one will say, okay, mommy, I did this because of that. And this one can say, oh no, mommy, I think she did this because of that. And everybody will make the floor open for everybody to share their opinions. And then as the parents, you definitely are presiding and also attending the meeting, but you can now set your rules and expectations and to say, you know what, these are our family rules, these are our virtues, this is what we live by, and this is how it's going to be going forward, especially from as long as you want things to stop. So yes, this can actually help to ensure that everyone is on the same page. it will foster that union. I would advise this to be done maybe at dinner time when everyone is seated on the dining table, or just after dinner. You can actually have that time together to talk. And yes, this will foster openness, it will foster trust, it will foster open communication and mutual respect within the family. And then the fifth alternative is positive timeouts. So yes, create a calming space where your children can go to relax and regain composure, not as a punishment, but as a self-regulating tool. Now, you can have a space in your home where you can actually get like mindfulness quotes, positive pictures that speak positivity, that exude positivity, beautiful calming pictures. You can actually have maybe music there if you have that amount of space, and let that just be a place where they can go and self-regulate. Like when maybe they feel worked up, or they feel that they're about to kick off, or they're about to just go haywire, you know what, just go to the self-regulating corner instead of calling it a naughty corner. Encourage activities like drawing or deep breathing or box breathing to help them process their emotions constructively. Now, drawing, painting actually helps a lot. Reading might not be so it doesn't really work for every child, but say solving maybe crossword puzzles or any activity or craft that takes their mind off whatever it is that would have caused the bad behavior is a very welcome idea within your positive timeout space. The final alternative we have is empathetic listening. Now, a lot of times, children act out because they feel unheard. And taking out time to listen empathetically, with emphasis to the word empathetically, can validate their feelings and reduce the need for negative behaviors. So validating the feelings of these children fosters trust and openness. When maybe they're doing something wrong, or they've just done something wrong, and you decide to have that one-to-one conversation with them to know exactly why they did that, instead of reprimanding them to say why would you get angry, or you shouldn't get angry. No, they are humans and they have the right to get angry or upset or frustrated or frazzled, whatever emotion. The ability for them to identify their emotions and know exactly how they feel and what caused them to feel that way is one step towards the bigger picture on how to helping them to become better humans tomorrow. Finally, we're going to be looking at implementation. How do we implement positive discipline in our children to avoid all the many timeouts that they have in the course of their lives? Now, transitioning from this traditional timeout to these positive strategies actually requires patience and consistency. So patience and consistency are very, very important elements that we need when transitioning from just always timeouts, naughty corner, and for us to be able to implement these strategies that we have just learned. I mean the positive or the alternatives that we just talked about. Secondly, educate yourself on child development and positive discipline principles. Now, every parent needs to understand the different phases of child development and what their milestones, expectations, blind spots are. We need to know what is expected of our children at every stage of their lives, so that we don't get angry unnecessarily when you say, okay, this is just a developmental trait of a 3-year-old. Like how we say the terrible twos. That's just them being them. We don't need to call it bad behavior, because we know if you're educated in that area, you definitely know that that child is going to grow out of it. So understand that their behaviors are opportunities for teaching. However your child behaves, use it as an opportunity to teach him, to educate him on how to be better. Thirdly, communicate clearly with your children. Now, I'm not going to downplay the effect of communication, proper communication with our children. So many parents find it difficult to sit with their kids and have proper conversations. But as parents, especially in this new age where they are exposed to a lot of digitalization, we need to learn to communicate with our children, even our languages and in life, especially about life. Our children need to learn those things that they will learn on the streets. They need to learn them from us. We need to set the pace for them to follow. So we have to be able to learn to communicate effectively, properly with our children, without judgment, without them feeling coerced to say things that they might not want to say. Set your expectations and explain the reasons behind your rules. You don't just set rules because you're running a military camp. No, your home is not a military camp. It's not a regimented outfit. No, it's your home. It's your family. It's your life. God gave you the opportunity to birth these children. So yes, even God gave us the 10 commandments, and eventually Jesus gave us the revised edition of the 10 commandments. So yes, there can be some flexibilities, but we need to set them rules. We need to have rules and expectations, and we need to give them the reasons. So I'm setting this rule because I want this to happen. Like in my home, 9 o'clock is prayer time and everybody shuts down. Everything has to be shut down after 9 p.m. so that they can have at least 8 good hours of sleep. That's just one of the many rules in the house. No devices on the dining table so that everyone can concentrate on their food. So there's always a reason behind whatever rules that are laid down. Fourthly, be a role model. Demonstrate the behaviors that you wish your children to see, because they learn through your observation. My daughter told me the other day, "Mommy, I hope you know that I'm copying everything you're doing." And that lit a light bulb in my head to say, oh wow, so that means that if I actually have a nasty behavior, my daughter is going to replicate that behavior. So we need to be that role model. My mom was my role model. I tried to talk like her, behave like her. So many people say, oh, you look like your mom. But I don't just want to look like her facially. I want to command the kind of respect that she commanded. She commanded a lot of respect. In any circle she found herself, she stood out as a leader because she was always providing valuable information. And she did that because she was well read. She studied hard. She was good at everything she did. She was a perfectionist. She made sure that she was involved. She was involved with the bricklayers. She was involved with the electricians. She knew what the electrician was doing. She knew she could. She was involved. I'm saying bricklayers. I'm saying electricians. That's to show you how lowly she wanted to know what was going on. She just didn't want to be there and you are there. No, she wants to know. So how many meters are we measuring? How many wire are we buying? That was how into the detail my mom was. And that's the kind of person I want to be. I want to be somebody who is involved. I don't just want to be there and things are going on the side. No, I want to be involved. My mom would come to us and say, so what's the latest slang? When we were in secondary school then, I went to a federal FGGC Owerri, and the slang then was fashi. Fashi means forget. And my cousin who was in Federal Calabar then sent my mom a letter. If you remember, then we used to write letters. Sent my mom a letter to say, oh auntie, please tell my mommy to fashi the TD board. It was technical drawing set. And my mom combed every dictionary she could find at her workplace. She asked every parent, every person she knew, what does fashi mean? And nobody could understand what that meant. So she actually thought it meant maybe like fast track buying it. So she actually bought the TD set and sent it to my cousin in school, like with express service. Like she felt maybe that meant she needed it as soon as possible. And then later when we came back on holiday and we're like, well, mommy, we said you should fast sheet because we didn't need it. She was like, I didn't know what that meant. And then that was when she said, from now henceforth, every slang that you use in school, I want to learn it. So she now started speaking to us in our school slangs. You know, she would always come and say, so what's the latest slang going on now? She'd come to our room. She wants to relate with you in your own language, in that language that you guys communicate with as kids. That's how she wants to relate with you. And that's the kind of mom I want to be. I want to be a child who is involved in my children's lives, knows them to their... my mom can tell you when you're telling... She can tell when you're telling a lie. That was how well she knew us. She'll tell you, you know what, all I need to do is look at your face and I can tell when you're telling a lie. And that's the kind of mom I want to be. So yes, my mom, I'm proud to say it anywhere that my mom was my role model. She's gone to be with the Lord now, but the virtues and the things that I learned from her will follow me till the day I die. And I'm also going to deposit it into my children, because I'm also picking up values in the course of my life. But the things that I learned from her made me most of who I am today. So yes, we need to be a role model. We need to demonstrate the behavior that we wish our children to portray. And then also, we need to reinforce positive behavior. We need to acknowledge and praise desirable actions to encourage repetition. So when your child does something wrong, you don't just take it as, well, that's what you're supposed to do. No, you should take it as, I'm ringing your bells, I'm lifting your banner high. Yes, you did it, so that they would be encouraged to doing it again. But if they don't get that positive acknowledgement from you, if they don't get that cheerleading from you, then they're gonna go look for that validation outside, and they might be getting the wrong validations for the wrong reasons, or the right validations for the wrong reasons. So we need to reinforce positive behavior. For every good deed our child does, give them thumbs up. All right? And then remember to stay calm. Remember to use the calm method. The calm method is creating a safe space, asking open-ended questions, listening without judgment, and managing your emotions. That's the calm method. Managing your emotions teaches your children to do the same. I'm going to repeat again. Managing your emotions teaches your children to do the same. Finally, by embracing these alternative strategies, we can foster a nurturing environment that promotes healthy development and a strong parent-child bond, which I know that's what every parent wants. Every parent wants a situation whereby they can sit and have a proper conversation with maybe their teenage child or their young adults, but forgetting that you have to have laid those steps from the beginning. And that's what Blossom's Corner is here to do. We're here to guide us, because I'm also in that shoes, here to guide ourselves on how to lay those positive foundations, those steps that will make that child one that you are happy to leave your investment with. That child that you are happy to retire your company to, the company that you have built with your blood, your sweat. You are happy to retire early and say, you know what, I know that my son can handle it. And that's because you have deposited enough in your child to be able to handle that level of responsibility. So yes, by embracing these alternative strategies, we can foster a nurturing environment that promotes healthy development and a strong parent-child bond. Remember, parents, every child is unique, and finding what works best for them is key, is paramount in creating that home that every parent desires. No two children are the same. Not even identical twins are the same. No, they're not. So we need to understand that. We need to understand our children individually. If you have 10 children, you have 10 steps. You have to understand each of them individually. If you have 5 children, you have to understand 5 of them individually. And understanding them means also knowing what works best for them. Let me give you an instance. My first daughter she's very, she looks hard on the outside. She's very soft on the inside. But she's a child that is very quick to learn. So you talk to her and she takes correction immediately. She might not show you emotionally that, oh, she's sad or unhappy, but you can actually tell if you understand her. But you see, my son, no, he's different. He's very soft on the outside. In fact, you haven't started talking, he's already crying. He might not do exactly what you say he should do immediately. He might want to do it the way he understands best to do it. But the most important thing is that it gets done. But he's one child that once you just do, whoop, he's shedding tears. While my daughter is, that one, no, she won't cry. But whatever you say, yes, mommy, she goes to do it. So we need to understand them. So sometimes, initially, when I didn't understand my son, I used to get worked up, like, I haven't even started talking to you and you're crying. And he'd be like, I'm not crying. I'm like, but you're shedding tears. I used to see that as a sign of weakness because he's a boy, and I didn't grow up with a brother, so I didn't understand. I grew up knowing that boys are very tough, very hard, they don't cry. So seeing a boy child who cries at every instant, it was troubling to me. Like, why are you crying? I felt boys are the ones that when you're shouting at them, they'll be like, yes sir, yes daddy, or yes mommy, and then the girls are the ones that when you're shouting at them, there's tears, river of tears. But in my case, the reverse is the case. The boy is the one who releases the river of tears, and the girls are, no problem, I've heard you. So we need to understand our children. And once you're able to do that, you will see that your parenting style, your home will flow. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell everybody to tell everybody, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you everyone. Bye.